the last J200 Toyota Land Cruiser left the US after the 2021 model year, not returning until now with this 2024 J250 Land Cruiser. It's smaller, less expensive, and more off-road capable. Let's take a closer look. Looking at the front of the car, this is clearly a big departure from the J200 Land Cruiser, and I have to say it is a welcome change. It's taller, it's chunkier, it's blockier, it's got this nice grid built into the upper grille, some more down here, and just big fat rectangle chunks as you go down. It just looks tough, and it also looks a lot closer to the original FJ40 Land Cruiser that we first saw in 1958. This being the first edition trim of the Land Cruiser, we get the round headlights just like the 1958 trim does. The middle standard Land Cruiser trim gets square headlights here, which is a little bit more like the J60. We also get this beefy roof rack up here, these rock rails over here, and this very beefy skid plate down here. The first edition also gets what Toyota calls heavy-duty mud flaps. The other thing that you notice here is this windshield is not, it's got a subtle curve, but it's almost perfectly flat. The curve is very subtle, much more squared off than you're used to, and you've got this nice straight, more vertical A-pillar right here, and it just looks a lot more Jeep Wrangler-like, a lot more squared off. Also, the hood has two bulges on either side of it, one on the driver's side and the other on the passenger side. But what's quite interesting is what's underneath it. Well, there it is, your turbocharged 2.4 liter inline 4-cylinder hybrid engine. 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque, and it is exposed. There's not some silly shroud over the engine. You can see the wiring harnesses and the coolant hoses and the ducts for the air, and very easily you can see the fuse box and the ABS pump over here, air box, more fuses, big inverter for the hybrid system. Also, this is longitudinally mounted, or fore-aft like that, which means that the transmission is behind the engine and that it's more easy to tuck the engine back. If you look at the front axle center line, it is right around here, kind of the back of this fuse box, which means most of the engine is actually behind the front axle, which is better for weight distribution and also allows for more space on either side. This is the truck platform after all, so it is an inherently front engine rear wheel drive setup, even though the Land Cruiser is full-time four-wheel drive. In summary, I think it's super cool to see. And yeah, windshield washer fluid is really easy to get to right here up front on the driver's side. Looking at the Land Cruiser in profile, this gives you an even better understanding of how big and boxy this thing is. This definitely fits the traditional SUV two-box shape, much more squared off, quite tall. You can see I am 5 feet 11 inches tall, and this is clearly taller than I am. This is one of 7 colors you can get. It is called Sand. It is a standard color. However, my test car does have the optional grayscale paint up here on the roof. That is a $350 optional extra, and I think does look really nice, adds more contrast to everything. But I do really love the look of the Land Cruiser in profile. You've got this nice beefy fender flare up front. You have these nice squared off side view mirror covers in gloss black. That goes with the black window trim right here, which also has kind of like levels to it right here. You have this nice character line that starts right from this hood crease, travels around, and then goes all the way back to just ahead of the taillights, and then comes all the way forward right to the top, the A-pillar. I think that's really clever. I like the beefiness of this roof rack right here. I like the beefiness of these rock rails right here. That is just fat tube steel right there. And it's got these metal brackets in between on top of that. Showcases really nicely these 18-inch wheels. 70 series rubber. We'll look at those more closely in just a moment. But also, we have these really interesting gloss black door handles right here. So the contrast between the light and the dark, and then the just sheer height of this thing and the squared off look of it, yeah, it really adds up to be an imposing thing with strong presence. I just dig it. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen right now so you can check those out, and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. So here's another look at your 18-inch wheels with 265 70R 18-inch tires. These are Michelin LTX Trail tires. Look at the glorious sidewall we've got here. 70 series rubber. I haven't seen that in a genuinely long time, and it is just, I have to say, a pleasant surprise. And yes, this is a square setup. You get the same wheels and tires in back as you do in front. Looking at the SUV from the back, I mean, it's just big and tall and boxy. You know, this roof-mounted spoiler is above my head, and the roof rack, you can see the back of it is way above my head. The rear tailgate glass is like 85 degrees. It's nearly vertical straight down. Then you've got a tastefully sized Land Cruiser badge right there. Really nice to see that. Slightly bigger Toyota, but still acceptable. And then here is where you are told that it is an iForce Max engine. Every single Land Cruiser is an iForce Max engine. It is the same powertrain across the board. I do like this big chunky bumper right here, but could go without this plastic covering for the trailer hitch. But then you have this nice silver below that. You can see the bottom of the full-size spare right there. And here is another look at these beefy mud flaps I mentioned. And blissfully, you do just have one single exhaust pipe. It is down there, hidden, doing exactly what it should. I love it. All right, let me show you cargo space. And actually, let me start by pressing this button right here. Yes, we have an independent glass lift for the cargo space right here. Gas stretch to hold it open. So quick, easy access to your over 46 cubic feet of storage behind the second row. I really dig that. And I just love the easy access here. And look where my shoulder is. The bottom of this glass is only about 6 inches below my shoulder. This is a tall, tall thing. But yes, the full hatch does open. It is fully powered on the standard and first edition trims and has a lot of space inside. Opening the tailgate reveals a high loading floor, but a lot of space, nice wide access to it. And the only other option we have in my test car, this $130 all-weather cargo mat. And it does, as you can see, have holes built into it so that you still have access to these lower tie-down straps right here. But there's actually more underneath this mat, so I'm going to remove it. This is like the natural floor of the Land Cruiser, but you see it goes up a few inches. Well, the floor, this new floor, has a lot of little compartments built into it. Also, you get this lovely little first aid kit here. And if you need more than 46 cubic feet of storage space, yes, that is easy to do. Pull a couple levers and you have more than 46 cubic feet of storage space and room for you and a passenger. You can see that there is this step between this floor and this floor, another 4 inches or so. But you also might have noticed, if you pull the lever again, the seats go all the way back like this, and you actually get like an 8-inch step down to this floor here. So if you need a taller space here, you have that option as well. This clearly isn't the most space efficient SUV. If your priority is space, there are car-based crossover SUVs that would fulfill that much, much better. But despite its less efficient space, I do still think my bike will fit quite easily, but let's find out. Oh, I have to lift it higher than usual. But once I get it up there, yeah, fits super easily. It is a little bit of an exercise to get the front tire above that step, but otherwise, plenty of room. Easy peasy. All right, let's check out that second row. before I actually show you the second row, there's one more thing I want to show you back here. First of all, here's another look at the storage compartments under the floor. Also, here's your jack and access to the battery and your tie downs. Also, there are USB Type-C ports and cup holders back here on both sides. And right here is a 2,400 watt AC power unit right here. This is standard on all Land Cruisers, and that amount of power is definitely helpful. I left the seats folded down because I wanted to show you a couple things. First of all, there are several recline levels that you can choose. This one is the most upright, and here is the most reclined. And I'll put this one up. So there is the difference between the most upright and the most reclined. Also, I showed you that these can fold down all the way just like that, but what I didn't get to show you is that there's another storage compartment right here and another section of storage right there. All right. Okay, first thing I'm going to do actually is start the car. Push button start is right here. And I'm doing that because we have a 3-zone climate control and I wanted you to see it. I am 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and I have, you know, a good 3-4 inches of knee room. I also have pretty decently high seat bottoms, so reasonable thigh support. I do have headroom, but less than an inch of it, but I also have less than a 90-degree bend in my knees. The Land Cruiser is still relatively wide, so I have good hip and shoulder room, and in addition to these climate control settings right here, I also have a cigarette style port right here and 2 USB Type-C outlets right there. And of course, I do have a center armrest with a couple of cup holders, so yeah, a road trip back here would be no problem at all. Okay, to the front. Because this is the first edition, I do have leather on the seats. If it were a 1958 edition, we'd have cloth seats, and the standard Land Cruiser gets soft text material. These seats do also have power adjustment here, and that does include lumbar support right there. We also have the usual controls on the door right there, including 2-position seat memory. We do have a nice big bottle holder and map pocket right there. And we do have several controls to the left of the steering wheel. Another way to open the lift gate, turning on that AC power I showed you, fuel door, and trailer brake controller right here. We do have electrically adjusting tilt and telescope steering right here as well. And how lovely is that? The floor mats say Land Cruiser. On the 1958 edition Land Cruiser, you get a 7-inch instrument cluster, but on the standard and this first edition, you get a 12.3-inch fully digital instrument cluster, and you do also get a head-up display just above that. And this has several options. You control it with this right here. First of all, you get 3 different screens to choose from. Here, which shows turbo and hybrid use, and this one right here, which adds this bar of information right here, currently showing tire pressure. But if you hold down the OK button right here, you get several options for the center as well. So you can choose between blank, driving support, map, settings, and messages. Press OK to settings, and you can choose whether you want a bunch of the driving assist systems on or off. Not to mention HUD main, that's the head-up display, but lane departure, blind spot, pre-collision, and this new thing called proactive driver assist, which is interesting on its own. So if I press this one, holding down the OK button again, I have 3 different levels of sensitivity I can choose from. I'm almost certain if I wanted it all, it'd be least sensitive, but also steering assist, deceleration assist, and obstacle avoidance assist. So even just in one setting of the Toyota Safety Sense system, you have all these different ways to adjust it. You can also go down, there is a whole second page of it, And then on top of that, you can adjust vehicle and meter settings right here even further. There's just a myriad of choices. Backing out of that. On the 1958, this is an 8-inch display. On the standard and first edition trim, you get this 12.3-inch display. Regardless of what size of the display, you get wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto as standard. And you also get a myriad of choices. Vehicle, you can choose all different kinds of climate settings. You could adjust settings, phone information, and on and on. Beneath that, we have the first two of our 3-zone climate control. We also have heated seats, which are standard, ventilated seats, which come on the standard Land Cruiser and this first edition, but not the 1958. We have a heated steering wheel as well. Beneath that, we have camera view options right here. If I put it in reverse, you can see the different options I can look at here. And if I put it in drive, I have these different options right here. Next to that, I also have 3 more USB Type-C ports right there. And below that, I have a wireless smartphone charger right there. Lovely. This is standard on the first edition, optional on the standard Land Cruiser, and not available on the 1958. Next to that, we have the mode select. So drive modes, you could say, but it's also way more than that. I'll go into that in just a moment. That's right next to our nice and beefy Prindle right here, which does include manual shifting right there. Just beneath that, we have our electric park brake and our hill hold. And beneath that, look at all the full-time 4-wheel drive options we have right here. Traction control, center locking diff, rear locking diff, stabilizer bar, disconnect mechanism. Push of a button, you can disconnect the front stabilizer bar to add more articulation to the front suspension where you need it. Next to that, we have a couple of nice deep cup holders right there, and beneath that, lower center console. But it's not just lower center console, it is your cool box. You can turn it on and off right there, and this has AC blowing to keep things nice and cool inside. And it is a noticeable difference in temperature just between where my hand is now and being out. That is probably at least a 10 to 20 degree change in temperature. Looking up, we do have a digital rear view mirror right there, so it doubles as a screen for the rear camera. And past that, we do have some light controls and our options for the moonroof. It is a manual privacy panel and then electrically opening otherwise. Lovely. Let's talk drive modes, because we have the mode select right here, but then we have these 3 different options right here. So starting with drive modes, we only have 3. We have Eco, Normal, and Sport. Fine, straightforward. But select the multi-terrain system, and now we have Auto, Dirt, Sand, Mud, and this one I especially appreciate, Deep Snow. But then you also have the hill descent and crawl mode. Hill descent will maintain speed while your foot's off the brake. It's using the anti-lock brakes to keep you stable and keep you slow. Crawl is a low speed off-road cruise control of sorts. So it'll maintain your speed, and all you have to do is focus your eyes where they need to go, focus on steering, that kind of thing. That couples really nicely with having a 2-speed transfer case, 4 high, 4 low. To get into 4 low, put it in neutral. You have to push down and then pull the toggle like that. And there, 4 low comes on like that. As you can see, you have a lot of equipment and a lot of options for taking the Land Cruiser off-road and doing a lot of different things. Not only is this a lot of capability, it's really easy to use, and I appreciate that very much. And all this powertrain equipment, the 2-speed transfer case, the locking center and rear diffs, all of that, it's all standard equipment. Oh, by the way, to disconnect the stabilizer bar, that's super easy. Just press the button, this flashes. Once it's solid, you're disconnected. So there you have it, the 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser First Edition. Lots of cool, interesting stuff in here. Lots of core equipment built into this thing. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.